We're in Yellowstone National Park. Let's go. Yo, get ready for this. I'm about to show you some epic spots in Yellowstone National Park. We're here in end of July 2022. Most of the roads are open after the flood. The only ones that are closed are the northeast ones towards Gardenier, Montana, and Lamar Valley. We weren't able to go to Lamar Valley, but that's okay. We still had an epic time in this park. So we kicked this trip off at Upper Geyser Basin. The trail here is around 4 to 5 miles round trip on flat boardwalks. Some of the most predictable and epic geysers live here. If you want to see all kinds of crazy geysers going off at one time, Upper Geyser Basin is the way to go. When you start the trail, the first thing you see is Old Faithful, so how much better can it get than that? If you want to see it erupts every 60 to 90 minutes, and if you want to know when it's going to erupt, the visitor center has a whole board of when all the geysers erupt. Like one time when we went, it said it erupts at 4:25, so everyone gathers around there and you wait for the show to happen. So there's a viewpoint for Old Faithful. It's called Observation Point. It gets you above it and you can watch it when it erupts from looking down at it. And what's good about that is because you can beat the crowds, because most people watch it from the ground on the bleachers. I wasn't able to go because of time constraints, but if you have time, definitely go. One thing about Upper Geyser Basin, there's so many pools, so many geysers, and some of the most notable ones that I remember, they were Chromatic Pool, Beauty Pool, North Triple Geyser. Apparently that one's one of the best in the park. It gets up to 300 feet. They have little signs where it says it might erupt. It's not for sure, so just take it with a grain of salt. And my favorite most of all was Morning Glory. This one was insane.
Remember not to throw anything into this pool. People have thrown things into it, causing it to clog, and it loses its color.
Let's try not to throw it in there, because man, if you see these spots, you're gonna want to keep them alive too. So 5 minutes up the road from Upper Geyser Basin, we hiked Mystic Falls Trail. It's 2.5 miles round trip, very little elevation gain. It was very enjoyable. On the trail, you pass by geysers, pools before entering the woods. In this area, it is grizzly country, so make sure you have your bear spray close by, just in case.
The trail takes you by the river and has views everywhere. The river's cutting through the valley. And once you get to the base of the waterfall, the trail takes you down to the bottom. But be careful walking by it because the water goes fast and the rocks are slippery from the water hitting it.
So shortly after, we drove to Gibbon Falls. This one is a must stop when you're visiting Yellowstone. It is ginormous. There's a parking lot where you can stop, bathrooms, all that good stuff. There's a paved path that's a couple hundred feet to the viewpoint of Gibbon Falls. It is huge. You're looking down at a huge canyon. Water's roaring. My mouth dropped. That's all I gotta say about that one. Further north in the park, we drove to Mammoth Hot Springs. This area isn't visited as much as the other areas in the park because of the northern entrance of Yellowstone. It's really close to Montana, but if I was you, I wouldn't skip it. Trust me on this one. This one was awesome.
So the two main trails of Mammoth Hot Springs is Upper Terrace Trail and Lower Terrace Trail. You can either hike them and connect them all together or drive them separately. They're about a 5-minute drive apart, but if you hike them, it's about like a 2 to 3 mile round trip. It really felt like I was in the moon out there. The two most notable springs out there is Canary Springs, my personal favorite. Really felt like it was an orangeicle ice cream. It was orange and white and just water flowing down it. It was awesome.
But I probably shouldn't have ate it. I didn't eat it, my bad. Another good one was Minerva Springs, but sadly there wasn't any water going down it, so therefore there was no orange look going down it. So for sunset, we went to Hayden Valley. This is one of the best spots for wildlife watching.
We went twice. We loved it so much. The best times to watch wildlife are sunrise and sunset because that's when it's cooler out and the animals come out to graze on the grass.
And you just don't want to miss it. This area is more of a drive with pullouts than hiking, but up close on the road, we saw some bison. They were huge. I thought they were kind of small looking far away. I was like, these things aren't that big. But I walked up next to my car.
Hey, bison.
And I was like, oh, this thing might knock over my car. Keep your distance. You don't want to get gored. I don't think it will feel good. So the next morning we caught sunrise at the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. Yes, there's another Grand Canyon. If I say so myself, it was pretty epic. So there's two drives on this one. There's a South Rim Drive and a North Rim Drive. I highly recommend doing both. You can do it within 2 hours. Artist Point was our first stop on the South Rim Drive. It's 0.2 miles from the parking lot. It gives views of the canyon leading up to Lower Falls. Wow, my mouth dropped. I'm not kidding. I was like, the water was roaring, the mist was going. We went at sunrise because we heard it was the best time to go, and it sure didn't disappoint. After Artist Point, we drove back down the South Rim, and we went to the Upper Falls viewpoint, and we saw the Upper Falls just going straight down before we went into the North Rim area. So in the North Rim area, we went to the brink of Upper Falls. You were able to look down at Upper Falls, flowing down the river. So this is the brink of Upper Falls. This bad boy is fast. So the walk down to get to this point is about 800 feet from the parking lot. Further down the North Rim Drive, we went to the brink of Lower Falls. This is a 600-foot drop in 3/8 of a mile. This viewpoint was my favorite in the canyon. The waterfall was going right into the main part of the canyon to the ridge lines of both sides. It was just jaw-dropping. Our last viewpoint on the canyon drive was Grand View. The view sure was grand. It's a short walk from the parking lot for amazing views that you didn't have to work hard for. So after the canyon, we went back to our campsite to eat some breakfast, and then after that, we made our way to the trailhead of Mount Washburn. We hiked it from Dunraven Pass. It's 6.4 miles round trip. There's 2 ways to get there. The other one is off Chittenden Road, and that one's a little shorter in mileage, but it's a little steeper and incline. Overall, this hike wasn't very hard. The incline was very steady, nothing too crazy. The one thing that made this hike awesome was the flowers blooming everywhere. They should have named this Mount Flower instead of Mount Washburn. July is the time to go in Yellowstone if you want to see wildflowers. The views from the top were amazing. So you get to a fire lookout out there, and there's a ranger who stays there, and inside the fire lookout there's an observation point where it tells you all the places where you're looking at. They tell you, you're looking here, you're looking there. It's pretty cool because if you don't know the names of many of the peaks around you, it tells you where it's at. We did see Hayden Valley, the Grand Canyon. At the peak, it's over 10,000 feet, so if you're not used to that kind of elevation, just be mindful of your limits and be careful. So after Mount Washburn, we ate some lunch, and then we made our way to Norris Geyser Basin. The trail here is named Lower Geyser Basin. It's all on a boardwalk, and it's 1.8 miles round trip. So the main parts here are Steamboat Geyser. This is actually the tallest active geyser in the area, standing at 300 feet when it erupts. It didn't erupt when we were there. It can erupt from every 4 days to every 50 years. So that one's not as predictable as some other ones in the park. But when it goes, it's awesome. My favorite part of the Norris Geyser Basin was the Porcelain Trail side of the loop. It had all kinds of blue pools and a crazy amount of vents just in the distance. So on our way to Grand Prismatic Spring, in between Norris Geyser and Grand Prismatic, we stopped at Firehole Waterfall. It's just a pull on the side of the road on Firehole Canyon Drive. When we got to Grand Prismatic Spring, the first thing we did was walk to it from the ground. It's a short walk from the parking lot on boardwalks. You'll pass by Excelsior Crater. That thing is huge. And after that, you'll see Grand Prismatic Spring. Huge, but the thing is, seeing it from the ground, you're not able to see all the colors. The cool thing about it though is you can see the bacteria living in the hot spring. Make sure you don't touch it because you can disturb its environment, possibly mess up the hot spring. After viewing it from the ground, we wanted to get above. So we took the Fairy Falls Trail. It's 0.7 miles to the overlook. The overlook's fairly flat. In one part, it's kind of steep. When you get to the overlook, wide open views of Grand Prismatic. You get to see the colors, how big it is, the steam coming off. If you only have time to do one of these, do the overlook because that's the better view of the two, in my opinion. So shortly after Grand Prismatic, we drove 5 minutes north of it to Paint Pot Geyser area. We rushed over there to catch a sunset, and we watched Jelly Geyser just going off. It was non-stop. The sun was setting, so it's turning the steam purple, pink. It was perfect. Also on the trail is the Paint Pots exhibit area. It's clay, mud, and water all mixed together, turning it pink. So on our last day, we went to West Thumb on Yellowstone Lake. This trail is about 1 mile round trip on the flat boardwalks with some awesome geysers and pools in front of Yellowstone Lake. My favorite geysers were the Fishing Cone and Big Cone, because they were literally on Yellowstone Lake. One of them was underneath the lake and it's bubbling up like awesome, man. This was my trip at Yellowstone National Park. This park definitely exceeded my expectations of it. It's so diverse with volcanic land, grasslands, waterfalls, hot springs, geysers, wildlife. I want to thank you for watching this video, and I hope I got you excited watching this video to visit this park because it sure is amazing. If you want to see more like this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and leave a comment if you have any questions or just want to say hi. Thanks again for watching, and I'm on my way to Grand Tetons, so I'll see you then.